You are listening to an MLGA Network podcast. Welcome to Make Liberty Great Again, the best damn Liberty podcast that you've never heard of. I'll be your guide as we peer into the ridiculous reality that is our society and our government. Let's get to it. Welcome to Make Liberty Great Again. I'm your host, Cam Harless, and with me, as always, is Miss Kim Shang. And joining us today, we have ex-lefty, Twitter bombing, Libertarian Kitchen Witch, and Guardian of Chickens, Miss Jessica Green.
Hello.
How are you doing, Jessica?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. I'm glad to have you on because the first time I ever heard of you, no offense, I don't hear of anybody anymore because I have 4 children and I code for a living, so my brain doesn't allow for me to actually listen to anything while I'm working. But David from the Morning Drive with David had you on his girls' night.
Oh, yeah.
And he roped me in to speaking on that, which was not my plan. But I remember after it, I was like, man, I am really impressed by that Jessica chick. I want to talk to her more. You're welcome.
Yeah, that event was a lot of fun. I actually really appreciated getting to talk to other women who are in the community because there's kind of this image that it's a big sausage fest, and it can be sometimes. But I was really actually impressed with all of the ladies who came on that night. I was like, wow, there are all these really awesome, smart chicks, and I need to make friends with all of them.
Well, and I appreciated that as well for 2 reasons, which is when with the libertarian kind of circle, podcasts, Twitter, etc., there's either the sausage party thing or there tend to be a lot of girls that are on Twitter who are libertarian to get a following and then don't say anything really all that worth responding to. You know, when David said, I'm going to have a libertarian women's night, like, I was like, okay, let's see what this is. Let's see how this goes. Because I've had some weird interactions on Twitter with some of the libertarian ladies. And then you were there and Brett and a couple of others. And I was just like, hey, this is actually a great conversation. Maybe I should have a ladies' night.
That's not insulting or anything.
Hey, I'm just telling you what I have witnessed.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of drama surrounding that, especially on Twitter, that I think some people feel that women get their followings because they're women. And I'm sure that there is some degree of truth to that. But at the same time, what that night kind of proved to me was that there is a lot of women in this community that are just balls to the wall smart and have such interesting things to say and interesting perspectives that I haven't really considered before. And that's what I think is great, is that they're bringing something unique to the table. There is a sort of prescribed box for women, especially, you know, myself coming from sort of the liberal side of things, that you get told that if you start to get involved in any kind of philosophy outside of the liberal philosophy, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, you're punching yourself in the face, like, how could you do this? Your husband must be telling you to do it. And I started to realize that, there was quite a lot of sexism reserved for women who aren't liberal. And I was like, that's very interesting.
Just like black people who aren't liberal.
Right.
It's the same thing. Yeah. The only people who don't get harangued for that in those words are white men. You know?
And then they have their own set of challenges, too.
I got the nice combination of being from the left and gay and black. That's always fun.
And a woman.
There's so much pre-prescription based on what you look like that it's extremely frustrating, especially from a side of things that claims to be about, you know, celebrating all of our individual characteristics. And then you realize it's not really about that. So that's what attracted me to libertarian philosophy, was that it actually did celebrate the individual. Because being a woman has been something I've had to compete with all of my life to have my opinion taken seriously. And I found in the libertarian community, not always, but much more so than in my liberal community, I was recognized as an individual. Like, my thoughts were taken on their merit instead of based on my genitalia, which was nice. And while there are, I can't say that there aren't any women that don't have a following because they bat their eyes and men like that. That's okay too. If you have a nice rack and you write taxation as theft across that rack, you're still getting the message out. So I can't hate on that too much. It's going to take a lot of different tactics to get these ideas to go mainstream. So if you want to use your titties to do that, I'm fine with it.
And we're both fine with that as well.
Right. Bring that cleave out, sister. Like, there's a great chick. Her name is Natalie Denolition, and she is constantly posting about like Mises Institute philosophy. But she also shows a little bit of that cleave now and again. And it's like, hey, you bring them in, and then you hit them with the Mises. That's the way to go.
Well, I think that's interesting because I love seeing anyone who's self-possessed and knows what they're good at, knows what they're talking about, present something that's interesting. I love people like that. And I have run into, like I said, some of these people on Twitter who kind of just use it to gain the following. I mean, it happens, and it doesn't bother me as a man because I'm not bothered by that. You do your thing. But there are a lot of men out there who see that and then lump all of the women of Liberty together, and they get really frustrated or probably envious when a woman does more numbers or has a better following. And you know what? If you do have boobs and show them and get an audience, I mean, that will help, obviously.
Right.
But as a man, you know, I'm just going to keep grinding and do the things that I like to do and talk to the people I like to. I don't care about being a celebritarian.
Right. Yeah.
So that's always a good place to start. But there was a podcast, and I won't mention the name of it because they don't deserve it. But there was a podcast who kind of went after one of our shows that's led by women.
Okay.
And kind of pushed to be on the show and kept asking and badgering. And you would hear them say things, which I don't hear anything anymore, but they would kind of say things here and there or try to drum up some kind of controversy. And outside of a little troll opportunity that I did, which would out them if I told you what it was, I just got under their skin, and it was a lot of fun for me. But I just told the girls, hey, ignore them.
Yeah.
That will bother them more than anything else. And since then, we haven't heard from them. I'm sure they're still seething, but you know.
I was not prepared for that aspect of it because I'm not one of the accounts that tries to sexualize the message.
Yeah.
And so I received some of that pushback, like, oh, it must be nice to have tits kind of thing. And I'm just like, wow, you know, through all the effort that I put into not sexualizing my message, into not making the fact that I'm female necessarily like a huge part of what I'm trying to tell you, that really knocked me for a loop. And I've had that thing too where men have demanded to be on my show. And it almost made me not want to do it anymore. Like, if you feel entitled to my programming, if you feel entitled to my space, then like, I just would rather not have a show at all than for you to feel like my time belongs to you in any way. But then I kind of decided that would be like letting him win. So I had a transgender person on my show, and that really upset like a series of people who decided they were going to send me like really cruel messages, tearing me down, like just all of these like things that they wanted to say about my show because I had this transgender person on. And I was like, look, you know, if I back off, if I stop doing the show, that shows them that they have power in doing that. And then they've won, you know? So rather than doing that, I signed on with her network and am going to be more involved in her network. That will be something to be announced in the future. All the kinks haven't been worked out of that quite yet. But yeah, I just decided to get more involved with her, and her message is great, and I love what she's doing. So it was like, yeah, it kind of had the opposite effect. You tried to force me to do what you wanted me to do, and now I'm going to go do the opposite, which is, you know, the Liberty way.
Nothing pisses off evil people more than you actually doing the opposite of what they wanted you to do.
Yeah.
But it's not like their opinion ever matters.
No.
That's the freedom of being a podcaster that just does what they want to do. Is the audience, you're never going to please everybody, so all you can do is just make sure you enjoy what you do.
That's right. Yeah. Someone else, Rebel Without a Cause, I don't know if you know Eric or not, that he said that he produces for several women's shows, and it only happens to women. He's never had it happen to any of his shows that were hosted by men.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, was that you?
Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Eric told me that. I'm sorry. So Cam told me that, and I was like, that is fascinating. I wasn't aware of that. And it really took a lot out of me when it happened. I was like, what is going on? Why do I feel so horrible about this? And it was like, this person feels they can target you because of your happenstance of genitalia. And I was like, oh, really? That changed. That was a horse of a different color at that point.
Yeah, I have noticed that I haven't had anyone do that to one of the shows that's run by guys. I've had it happen to the Voluntary Vixens. Mm-hmm. But I found out that there is this subsect of dudes who think that their message is very, very important and think that what they have to say is very necessary to the general conversation, and yet they don't have the personality to back it up, so they don't get the following. Yeah. And so that is something that I've noticed a lot. No one is owed your time. Right. You know how much I make people pay for my time? Why would I give it to you for free?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Especially when it's so low energy. Like, come on. Interest me at least.
Yeah. Have you seen on my page at some point, there was somebody who kept trolling me constantly. They enjoyed calling me a monkey a good portion of the time when I first started the podcast. And I never even removed those comments. They're just sitting there. And I was like, of course, I knew that was coming. So I just kind of skipped right over that person. And it was just like, okay. And eventually they gave up.
Almost like leaving them there kind of like puts them on display. Like, this is you. Yeah. This is what you say and what you sound like. And you know, you're digging your own grave with that.
That's your scarlet letter.
Yeah. I mean, not that most of these accounts aren't anonymous people anyway, but at the same time, it's like, that's what you're putting out. That's how you're representing yourself. And I am a very big fan of giving people the shovel to dig their own graves with.
Absolutely.
Like, if I can let you just go to town on yourself, I will let you do it every single time. I am not going to stop my enemies from making a mistake. That is the one good piece of advice that Napoleon gave, which is to never stop your enemy from making an error.
And also, don't give them something that doesn't belong to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't stress that enough when I've had, because, you know, even in my working life, I've had people demand things of me, and I'm like, dude, you don't have that right. This is my body. This is my time. This is my air. Leave it.
Yeah, I think I was not ready for how much it was going to knock me back. Because normally, if someone presents me with some kind of like unfounded criticism and it's face to face, I can deal with that really well. Especially, like you said, you were in customer service. Like, anybody who's ever been in a customer service job can pretty much like deal with that kind of thing coming in. But for some reason, when it was like this online platform, it like took a piece of my soul. I don't know what it was. I just felt awful about myself. And I was like, why am I letting this person who barely exists? They're an anonymous account. As far as I'm concerned, you barely exist when you're an anonymous account. And it knocked me for a loop.
And that's one of the things that I don't say this a lot, but I will say it. I respect anyone who puts their name on their product.
Yeah.
So the fact that you are Jessica Green and the Jessica Green Show, I respect that. I don't hate on people who use fake names, but also I'm not going to call you some silly name that you made up. I'm just not going to do it. That's just not my...
I completely understand and support the need for anonymity on the internet, because sometimes, especially with the way the culture is right now, you can say the wrong thing and then 10 years from now, you'll lose your entire career. And maybe what you said right now is not bad, but in 10 years, it will be considered bad. And how are you supposed to know? So I understand completely the need for anonymity, especially among people who have careers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I'm a homemaker. So if you want to cancel me, you can call my husband and tell him that I can't cook dinner for him anymore. I'm sure that will go well for you.
Well, and that's the thing. I would just love you to use a realistic sounding name is all. Like, the silly thing is I'm just like, come on, dude. Don't make me say that over and over again when I talk to you.
Sometimes I wonder if I was smart to do mine, because there's no other Kim Shang on the planet. So I'm pretty much out there. So every now and then I'm like, I don't know if that was the correct move, but then I was dumb enough to run for office. So I guess I gave up on that.
And once you're out there, you are out there. So there is that aspect of it.
But don't worry, Kim, I'll give you some of my white privilege. so you'll be covered.
Thanks. It'll keep me warm.
I just mention often that I do avail myself of my Second Amendment right. Mm-hmm. So, that's just something to consider when you come after people. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, especially libertarians.
Right.
Yeah, one of the good things about being in the anarchist realm is that if you come to my house, there's a 0% chance that I'm calling the cops first. So, keep that in mind.
I love that meme where it's a guy laughing and it's the burglar says, "Aren't you going to call the cops?" And he just laughs. Like, no, that's not what we do around here.
Nope. You mentioned canceling, and I don't know if you know this. Do you remember Nick Cannon, or do you know of Nick Cannon?
He does the Masked Singer, right?
Yeah, he also did Drumline.
Yeah, he was in that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he was on Nickelodeon.
I'm old.
I don't remember, but I feel like he was on Nickelodeon. But he got canceled today.
Oh, what'd he do?
He had a podcast with someone named Griff. I cannot remember who that is, because it was the first time I'd heard the name. Okay. But they were talking, apparently the Griff guy is in the Black nationalist arena. Oh. And so...
I know those guys, yeah. They're a lot of fun.
He and Nick Cannon were talking, and they essentially said that black people were the true Hebrews. And Nick Cannon said, and I quote, "It's never hate speech. You can't be anti-Semitic when we are the Semitic people. When we are the same people who they want to be. That's our birthright. We are the true Hebrews."
Is that why Hebrews was trending today?
Probably so, yeah.
Yes.
I clicked on the trending, and it was just this, slew of awful comments, and I was like, okay, I'm going to back out of here before I get pissed off. I didn't know that had come from Nick Cannon. I saw him floating around the internet today, but I didn't know. So the Black Israelites, those guys, there's a lot of those guys in Atlanta. And, you see them on the street with their, protest signs and things like that, and they're shouting the craziest shit you've ever heard in your life. But mainly, people find them to be a figure of fun. I don't know a lot of people who take them ultra seriously. Some groups are listed as terrorist organizations. If you go on the, I think it's the Southern Poverty Law Center website, they have, a map, and you can see where the different, terrorist groups are located. And there's a bunch of Black Israelite groups surrounding Atlanta that are listed on that. But for the perspective of the people, mainly people just kind of find them to be figures of fun because they're just shouting the most crazy things like that, they're from ancient Egyptians and that those Egyptians are connected to UFOs somehow. And I don't know the whole story, but it's crazy stuff.
Well, what's funny is Dave Smith said that he heard it and he laughed because he thought it was funny. He thought it was hilarious.
A lot of it is.
Which I laughed at it. And one of the, I guess, Groyper type people, got on Dave's case and he was like, "You think this is funny?"
Yeah, it is though.
And he sent a video to Dave Smith of this random black dude talking. And he's like, "You think this is hilarious?" And the guy literally was saying, white people can't get above the animal plane. They kill because they're composed of the same melanin phenotype as animals. They don't have the neuro-melanin that allows you to connect with God like black people.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, that's
neuro-melanin.
That's a Black Israelite for you. Yeah, I saw one where this woman was claiming that melanin processed information, and so they get information from the sun that's processed through the melanin in their skin, and that because white people don't have enough melanin, we don't get the ancient knowledges.
Right.
Wow.
And I was like, oh man, I'm missing out on the ancient knowledges. With an S, knowledges.
Wow. Yeah, plural.
Yeah. I was like, oh, darn.
I just never heard of neuro-melanin before, and I showed Kim the video right before this. I laughed so much. I'm the same as a lion, which is supposed to be, I believe, an insult.
Oh, okay. Lions are pretty cool, though. I don't know that I'd mind being called a lion.
But yeah, no, that's what's going on in cancel culture today. And so that made me think of it.
So wait, so to bring this back, just to make sure I understand this story, Nick Cannon of The Masked Singer had a Black Israelite on, and they started talking about neuro-melanin, and now he's canceled?
Okay, no, he didn't talk about neuro-melanin. Okay. The neuro-melanin was someone trying to prove to Dave Smith that it wasn't funny, which backfired because that's objectively hilarious.
That's a hard sell because that shit is funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is really damn funny.
Yeah.
But Nick Cannon had this guy on, and Nick Cannon said that black people were the true Hebrews, so they can't be anti-Semitic.
We can't be anti-Semitic, can't be racist. This is just, wow, beneficial.
So no more Nick Cannon on Masked Singer.
Well, that's okay. That show probably needs to die the death anyway. I think we're done with that.
Yeah, after Sarah Palin was on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was a pill to swallow for a lot of people too. Like,
Baby Got Back has never sounded so good.
Because Sarah Palin, Kim has met her.
oh, is she nice?
Oh yeah,
She seems like she'd be nice.
she actually is very nice. She was actually really cool to talk to. The only thing, and it's just still my favorite thing she's ever said, when I gave her my campaign card, she said, "Oh, I'm a libertarian too," and I had to use every acting class skill that I had ever learned not to just bust up laughing in her face when I heard that.
God bless you, Sarah Palin, for believing that you're a libertarian.
I just thought it was great to see someone that high profile holding something in their hand that I had designed.
Yeah, like Cam designed all of my campaign stuff. It was really good, very eye-catching.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's really cool. I mean, she gets a lot of shit, and don't get me wrong, she says a lot of stupid things, but at the same time, she seems like she's a genuine person, and those don't exist in Washington. And so, like, it doesn't surprise me that she didn't really, like, get very far, because it just seems like she's actually, like, a nice lady. And I kind of feel bad.
She'd be chill to have beers with.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I'd hang out with that lady again.
Yeah, she's nice. And she's gorgeous, too. Like, that kind of gets passed over, but she's, like, a really hot chick, too. Just, I don't know why I thought I needed to mention that, but she is.
Definitely a MILF.
Would you rather have a beer with Barack Obama or eat McDonald's with Donald Trump?
I would so much rather eat McDonald's with Donald Trump than I would have a beer with Barack Obama. First of all, Barack Obama nurses beers. You can look at that guy and just tell that he nurses. He'll take a little sip, and then he'll say some shit, and then he'll get out of there. Donald Trump, look, I think they both belong in a federal prison right next to each other. Don't get me wrong. They're both war criminals. But at the same time, what of those two events that I think would be most entertaining would be to have McDonald's with Trump. He would be a lot of fun.
But could you imagine sitting there, like being, I don't know about you, but me, I really love trolling. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite things. So could you imagine being able to sit down with Donald Trump and go over trolling and meme strategies for his Twitter game?
The way that he handles the press is stroke genius.
It's
and whatever negative you have to say about him, he has those people wrapped around his pinky. It's ridiculous how he controls them.
And his new press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. Oh my God.
I like her a lot. Now, I'm
not a Republican, but oh my God.
I was about to say I'm not gay, but...
I was like, now I'm listening.
I mean, I like me some Miss Kayleigh. She is, first of all, super hot and blonde, and she is tearing it up, and I love it. And she gives them no quarter. She is prepared every time.
I love a fiery lass. What's been fun lately is all of the LP stuff, because Kim actually ran to be, was a state senator, or was it?
Yeah, state senator.
Yes, for the in the Libertarian Party in 2016, and shortly after that, like, I joined the LP in 2016 because I still thought that I could help this situation through politics, but only a little bit and only for a short time. And because I watched the 2016 National Convention, and I was like, well, I'm not giving them any more money. Like, immediately, I don't LP. And Kim had the same reaction. And so Pete, do you know Peter Quinones?
Yeah, I don't know him, but I'm familiar with him.
What's fun is he and I have been kind of in the same headspace on Twitter and on Facebook, because I thought that I despised the LP stans in 2016, the ones who were like really hardcore Gary Johnson, let Gary debate. Mm-hmm. I thought that I despised those people. I would like to have those people back, please, because the new round is so much worse.
Yeah, so we're talking about like the Joe Jorgensen.
Yeah, the JoJo bots.
Yeah. So I was actually on Freckles and Britt show live when they announced who that was. And there were 5 women sitting there talking when they announced who the LP candidate was going to be. And all 5 of us went, who? Yep. And we started looking up and asking questions. And all of the LP people started in instantaneously very rude about it, saying, well, if you had been paying attention to the last 8 months of debates, then you would know who she was. And I'm like, oh, this is an interesting way to respond to curiosity about your new presidential candidate, is to be rude about it.
Not to mention, I don't know if it got better this time with the debates, because last time they had presidential debates in 2016, like it's like they couldn't even find a 720p camera to use to shoot the things. Yeah. So why would I watch that if it's going to be painful?
Except for the one that was in Vegas, thank you much. We actually had Penn and Teller for that one, so that was good.
Well, I was a little worried that I would see naked man ass again if I tuned into that, so I just kind of skipped it and figured I'd catch the reel later. And now we have
a reel?
Yeah, I don't know. You get clips, but all
I know is that Sarwark told someone to eat a dick. That's all I know.
Maj Toure.
They said it was because somebody was, I guess he was talking to somebody that was on the floor, he was on the stage, and somebody said something, and Sarwark said to that one person to eat a dick, but then all of a sudden went around the internet, him saying it to the entire group of people there.
I love when they get him mad because he's so easy. Like,
and he's so bad at it.
Yeah.
Like, did you see that wonderful exchange with him calling Eric July a racist and trying to tag in Talib Kweli into it? And then Talib Kweli eventually calling Nick Sarwark a racist?
Of course. What did he think? We were trying to, like, buddy him up with you to call Eric a racist?
Another black man a racist.
Oh my God. First of all, that's so insulting. Like, you want me to buddy in because I'm black too, and I'm gonna, like, agree with you, so that's gonna give your opinion that Eric is a racist more weight? Like, that's racist. Like, fuck you. Sorry, I don't know if you allow swearing on your program or not. Fine. But I've got a lot of them.
I used to, like, bleep stuff, and first off, I hate the bleep sound. I hate it, so I don't do it anymore. But really, the big thing was I had, what's his name? Guy who ran for president. Why am I blanking on his name? John McAfee.
Oh, okay.
I had him on, and I was like, I'm not bleeping anything this guy says.
Oh,
and so
God.
then that became what I do now is, if you're on here, say what you want. I'm going to say what I want.
Every time McAfee's on, I watch him because he's super awesome. Only in the sense that he is living what anarchists think they would like to live. Which is like, I am independent of the state and I don't care what they do. I'm just going to do my own thing. And, like, I think if I hung out with him for a couple of days, I'd probably get tired of him super quick because he seems like he drinks a lot and smokes a lot. And I'd be like, okay, I can't keep up with you, man. But I love watching his story. And so...
Speaking of eating a dick, though, he still hasn't.
Oh.
He backed off of that, though.
Was he going to eat a dick?
Of course he would.
He said that if Bitcoin hit a certain dollar amount, that he would eat his own dick on live TV.
Like with a knife and fork?
Yeah, like he thought that it was going to hit this mark, but if it did not hit that high mark, he was going to eat his dick.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people were predicting that, and I think that it's a little sad that it didn't, because I had a lot of hope for that. But at the same time, it's like, it's internet shekels, like...
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems with this still that kind of need the kinks worked out. So I have not trusted my wealth with Bitcoin as of yet.
Yeah.
I need to be more convinced that it's not as tied to the market as it seems to be.
Well, and what was fun about our conversation with him, me and my friend Ryan spoke to him, was that I think he was very well prepared for, like, a very serious show. Mm-hmm. And so when I came in and gave him a funnier introduction, and we talked about how awful the woman was that directed the documentary about him, like, he just laughed and rolled the whole time. It was so much fun.
Yeah. Like I said, he seems like he's a great time. I just don't think that I could ever keep up with him.
Yeah.
Like, he is always going, and I'm just like, I think I would drop out after a couple of days. I would be like, all right, dude, I'm out.
It's hard to keep up in a conversation.
Well, the first day is fun. During 2016, when I was running for office, I got to hang out with him a lot.
Cool.
Mostly his wife. His wife is the coolest, woman on the planet. That lady is awesome.
I think so too. And I've never even met her. I love that she just walked up to him and was like, "You're mine now."
Yeah, I love her.
Like I said, I like a fiery lass.
You said you met him and you got to hang out with him a lot, but especially his wife. And I just got really excited.
Yeah, we just always saw him at conventions, and he would throw all these parties, and they're about as wild as you would expect. And that man is up at insane hours. I was like, this is, I can't really hang if this is how libertarians do it, because I had only been a libertarian for about 3 months, so it was a little bit of a culture shock at first, but that dude has a lot of energy, and I'm assuming that's probably from the cocaine.
He said he was 74, and I'm like, how are you alive? Like, I'm 37, and if I have more than 2 or 3 beers the next day, I'm like, don't speak to me. But yeah, I mean, Coke will do it. Coke will... Yeah. That's how I survived my waitress years. I am not ashamed to say.
I've never tried booger sugar.
At this point, you can probably safely rule that out. In our age group, it's not a great idea.
I've safely ruled out a lot of things, luckily.
I tried it twice, but then when I realized that if a woman sat on my face at any point, I would not have felt it. So I just didn't do it anymore.
That's true. Yeah, pretty much everybody in the food industry in Atlanta is coked out of their mind. And that's just the way the restaurant industry is. I mean, I don't know about other cities, but at least in Atlanta, everybody in the restaurant industry is like coked out of their brain. But you know what? They get shit done and they make their money.
Yep. So let me ask you, how do you feel about the recent Joe Jorgensen tweet that I'm sure you've heard of?
The actively anti-racist one?
Yes.
Right. So that could have been like, do you remember?
I don't think it was written by her.
No, I don't either.
No.
Remember Silly Putty used to be able to take it and lay it on a newspaper and then like,
It was copypasta.
Right. So I kind of felt like that was what was going on there. Like, oh God, you just kind of like pulled from a random assortment of things that you think people want to hear and you put it up on Twitter, and gross. But also, like, I saw a lot of really great criticism about that, a lot of hilarious criticism about it. Like, one of them was like, it's not enough simply not to be not homophobic. You have to be actively gay.
That was what I had to post that. That is amazing.
That's like so funny. And it's like any other way you try to phrase that, you see the absurdity of it. And I'm just kind of like, I get what you're doing, like, but I don't want it. So stop.
Yeah. I just need to rant about that though.
I had a conversation with someone, and my point about her saying it isn't that I think that she actively is promoting Marxism.
Right.
I think that she pulled from the current zeitgeist late, by the way.
Right.
And she used this jumble of terms that are used very specifically by the people who promulgated them.
Yeah.
Like I've had this conversation with a couple of people where I've said the brilliance of the Black Lives Matter movement is that they took a sheer statement of fact, Black Lives Matter, and they've attached a laundry list of items that you have to agree with. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're a racist or you don't believe Black Lives Matter. However you want to say it.
I saw great criticism of it in my anarcho-Christian Facebook group, where the guy was saying, it's the same as calling your movement the sky is blue. Mm-hmm. And then having this other laundry list of things that have nothing to do with the sky. But then if anybody disagrees with you, you can then say, what are you saying, the sky isn't blue?
Right.
And that rang true to me. I was like, this is very similar. Like, everybody acknowledges the sky is blue. Of course the sky is blue. I mean,
most of the time.
Not technically, scientifically, we know that it's because of scattered light. But the point being, we all know that, and it's an accepted fact. But if I disagree with any of your other politics, you get to turn around and say that I don't think the sky is blue. No, I'm afraid not. Like, that's just
brilliant.
Nonsensical.
Yeah. I think the upsetting thing, though, is the reaction to it is anytime you criticize that tweet, the problem is they'll say, oh, you're racist. Oh, well, you're just slamming BLM. Not everybody in BLM is evil. And so they can just continually use that, oh, we've exposed those racists in the liberty movement who disagree with this tweet. And I had to jump in there and go, okay, as a black woman, I'm going to tell you what my problem with this tweet is. I don't even care about the BLM part. Don't care. don't care about anything that sounded like Marxism. It's the fact that I would have to pull up Urban Dictionary to figure out what the hell anti-racist meant in the first place, so I don't know where they were going with that. And I'm like, okay, what does this word mean? So everybody was trying to tell me, you know, maybe I had some latent racism about black people or something. But I was like, I don't understand why you use this term. You just went and grabbed a leftist term to pander, for one, and then you get mad at people who don't know what that means. I didn't know what it meant until I finally looked it up, and I was like, okay, don't we already have words for don't be racist? And if you see something racist, point that out. Like, don't we have words for that? We have to pull that one out.
Right.
But the only criticism you can possibly have of this tweet is apparently, you know, it's against BLM and it makes libertarians uncomfortable because it's Marxist. But I just think that whole thing was off base.
Well, and not to mention that one of the things that I've noticed all over the internet over the past couple of years is that it's not be anti-racism. It's be anti-racist. Mm-hmm. And putting it that way makes me uncomfortable for a couple of reasons. One being the word racist is very, very loose these days.
Yep.
It is not as strong of a term as it used to be because it's been used for everything. Just like it was okay to punch a Nazi a few years ago, now you have to be anti-racist. Does that mean that I have to be against people who think differently and are not doing harm to anyone? Do I have to punch people?
Yeah.
Because I'm not willing to do that.
I think that's the expectation. I think that's exactly the expectation. And in fact, I see this kind of like desire to dehumanize. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not a fan of racism. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to hang out with people who are racist. But I think that you have a right to be a racist. You have a right to think your thoughts in your head. And I hope that by being allowed to speak your mind on these issues, you can be contradicted.
Or ignored completely.
Or ignored.
Have people not deal with. Ostracize.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant. So my deal on that is that the answer to bad speech is always more speech. And so the idea that these people should be shuttered into some dark place where they can, you know, just talk amongst themselves and never be contradicted by anybody is going to make things infinitely worse. I'm trying to remember his name and I always forget it. His last name is Dixon. And I think his first name is, no, it's not Daryl. That's the guy from Walking Dead, isn't it?
It's like Walking Dead.
Yes, it is.
So he's this guy, he basically, he talks to Klan members. And he...
Okay, yeah, I know. I can envision him in my mind, but I can't tell you what his name is.
Yeah, I remember who you're talking about.
I wish to God I could remember his name. I feel so crappy for not knowing it. But he personally has pulled like 40 people out of the Klan simply by talking to them. By saying, I acknowledge you as a human being. And I'm going to speak to you. And by speaking to me, you're going to have a hard time not acknowledging me as a human being. And that guy has done more to be anti-racist by treating Klan members as human beings than any of the blue checks on the Twitter right now who are making all this like anti-racist sentiment. This fella has actually like looked people in the eye and talked to them like they were human beings, which is the opposite of what you're allowed to do now. Instead, it's the racist is not a human being. The racist is dehumanized. The racist can be punched, can be killed, can be hurt, and all of these things. And that's what we do. We dehumanize right before we make it okay to commit violence.
And ignorance is curable, completely curable.
Yes.
It's not a cancer. It's very curable. Mm-hmm. I have had great conversations with statists who were very pro-war and turning them to my end, which is anti-war and anti-killing. Mm-hmm. You can do the same thing with people who have a bad opinion of black people.
There was a documentary made by a woman who was at the Charlottesville riots, I guess we'll call them. It was more of a street brawl, but in Charlottesville, she was there with a white identitarian group, but she herself was Middle Eastern. And so she was sort of given a pass to travel with these men so that she could film them. And months after this documentary came out, one of the leaders of that white identitarian group had messaged her telling her, I'm no longer in this group. I don't want to be involved with these people anymore. I am renouncing white supremacy and white identitarianism. And when she asked him why he was doing that, he said, I didn't like the way that you were treated because you were there respectful. You were there looking me in the eye, treating me like a human being, and these other people were treating you terribly. And I couldn't square that. So this man left white supremacy by simply being respected by somebody. And I think that has way more power Not necessarily, and I'm not telling anybody, I often get this criticism, what are you telling me? I have to deal with these racists? I have to open myself up to these racists? That's not what I'm telling you. I'm just saying, if you have the opportunity to treat someone like a human being, do that, because you don't know how you might affect them. That just by talking to you and being respected by you, that might change their view completely. You guys might have a conversation about food. Doesn't matter. You don't even have to talk about race. They might decide, hey, you're a cool person. Maybe I'm wrong about this.
Well, yeah, and it's like, it reminds me of Michael Malice. He wrote his book, The New Right. And he is a Jew, a Russian Jew.
Right.
And he talked to all of these different people. I don't think he made any claims about bringing people out, but it's the same. Like when you were mentioning that story, I'm like, yeah, that's what Malice did too. Mm-hmm. He just treated these people like normal people. And what you said actually reminded me of a Bible verse. Proverbs 15. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
Yes. Oh God, absolutely.
Those are the facts. And if you counter ignorance and anger and violence with, or not even necessarily violence, if you counter ignorance and racism with a harsh word and with violence, you're doing nothing but making the problem worse. Mm-hmm. I was on Facebook the other day, and a friend of mine was having a conversation with someone because they had put up a meme that said, how come there's tear gas deployed at Black Lives Matter peaceful protests, but there aren't at KKK rallies or the people with the guns? And first off, that's the person who posted it. I would never have had that conversation with that person. Right. That was not an area of argumentation that was winnable. It would have been casting pearls before swine. Yeah. So I wouldn't have done it. But for one, when you have a group of men walking around open carrying AK-47s and AR-15s, shooting them with mace, pepper spray, not going to go well. You don't do that. And on top of that, usually say what you want about the KKK. They're evil. They do terrible things. They have the worst thoughts. But they're always peaceful when they gather.
They're very, very effective at that because they have a long history of doing this. So they know what will allow them to sustain themselves.
Right. And some of these protests lately have not been peaceful. So yes, I will never stand a cop, but it makes sense that a cop would use pepper spray on people when there's unrest and violence, right, than when there's not. But it was one of those things where this guy was like, well, there's hate speech isn't free speech, and the KKK needs to be named a terrorist organization, and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, it's always interesting because I see these arguments and I have these thoughts in my head where I'm like, oh, you mean like in 1872 when Grant passed and signed a law about the KKK that said that he could use military force against them if he wanted to? Right. Like that kind of thing. The thing that already exists, that's what you want? Like, how is that going to work?
Yeah, we've got this trend in our country lately where there's already laws against murder and theft and all these types of things, but we need to make another law on top of that law that says that murder is bad, but extra bad when it's this kind of murder.
The thoughts in your head were different than the guy who murdered 3 people out of just regular malice. You had racial malice, so... They're
all still equally dead, but, extra crime for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just real quick, back to the idea of communicating our arguments well. I had an interesting Facebook interaction this morning where someone was calling people who didn't like to wear face masks. She referred to them as plague rats.
Oh, wow. I've just heard masker and anti-masker.
Yeah, so...
playing off the vaxxer stuff.
That's what I would put in my original post, is that if you're using the term masker or anti-masker, you're the one doing the polarization. That everybody complains about how polarized everything is right now, but, nobody takes any responsibility for not being a polarizer. And so, I tried to point that out, and this woman, like clockwork, like she couldn't help herself, was like, you're right, I'm going to shame those anti-maskers because they're plague rats. I was like, how many people do you think you can convince to wear a mask by calling them a rat? You're not really trying to convince anyone to wear a mask. That's not your goal. Your goal is to dehumanize people that you don't like so that you can give yourself permission to do whatever you want to them.
Not to mention, it's to make them feel better, smarter, and superior to the person they're talking to.
Absolutely.
Because people all over this country, I've said this, I don't think on this show, but I've said this for years. There is a giant issue in the most current generations with lack of identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so they flock to these different ideas, these different niche things that give them an identity. And right now, there's a safety in numbers with the coronavirus deal
mm-hmm.
and being one of the good people.
Right.
And
I care about my community.
Right. The Nextdoor app has a 28-year-old man got on it a couple months ago, back when things were not as bad, which I'd say they're better now, but they were not as bad back then. And he was like, only about 2/3 of the people in the local grocery store were wearing masks. What can we do to shame these people? And I'm like, dude, you're 28 years old.
Mind your business, man.
Chill out.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Have you seen the what's going on in Texas, that they are they put out, from the fire department, put out an ad looking for people to tell on people who are not wearing masks in Texas. They literally put that out on the internet.
And does that not just smack of like Soviet era, like tell
And
on
North
your
Korea.
Parents, tell on your neighbors,
Yeah.
they're not good communists anyway. Like there's so much.
Yep, class traitors.
That was about 90% of the comments on that post were all exactly what you just said.
And it's interesting how reviled the Soviet Union is in America, and here we are all lining up to just adopt the Stalin policy. And that,
Yep.
every time I try to point out that, like, these are Stalinistic policies. Oh, you're being dramatic. Oh, that could never happen here. Why could that not happen here? Because of your hubris? That's not going to protect us from this. This absolutely could happen here.
Well, also the corporate press.
Oh, boy.
I mean, if you look now, and if you look in the 1930s, Walter Duranty, I believe he was with the New Republic at that point, actually went over to the Soviet Union and Ukraine to see what was going on, and wrote to, I believe, the New York Times that everything that people were saying about Stalin wasn't true, that the Holodomor wasn't happening, this, that, and the other. The common thread in the corporate media at that point was to back the communists. And so every time you hear someone say, back in the day, it used to be better, call bullshit on them, because this is always the case. Right now, we're seeing the same thing, just in a different situation.
And to flip that on its head, you can turn around and look at like the McCarthy era and how if you were thought to be a communist, it could ruin your life. It could, you could potentially be driven out of your home. You could be driven out of your job. Violence could befall you. And then they would have you in to like tattle on your friends. Who were you in a group with? Who were you in a political group with? So, again, we revile the Soviet Union while emulating them at home.
And what's interesting about the McCarthy era in general is that, yes, that there was some real shady, terrible stuff. But the fact was there were communist sympathizers with ties to the Soviet Union that were found out.
Yeah.
To be trying to infiltrate our country. And so it's one of those, it's like a double-edged sword where you see that era and you're like, well, they did find the communist threat. Right.
So there's always that little inkling of truth that they can use. And they don't pull it out of their ass. It's not like all the Nazis went around to every German door, knocked on it and said, hey, do you guys want to participate in the biggest act of mass violence of the century? And everybody went, yeah, we're down for that. Like, it would never go down like that. It has this slow, incremental burn that where you can take little stories out of the news here and there. This bad thing happened. That bad thing happened. Aren't you afraid of this? And it builds on itself in conjunction with the dehumanizing, which the rats thing particularly struck me. Because that's something that...
Any kind of vermin.
Right. That's what the Germans referred to the Jews as, rats.
Well, and if Stalin hadn't died when he did... His plan was to start exterminating Jews.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it would have gotten that far because I think a lot of the people in his government at that point were fearing for their own heads, and there were plans in action to remove him, but he ended up having that.
I'm just saying he had the plan.
He did have the plan, yes. And because that plan involved a new set of purges, and who was going to be in that purge decided that they were not going to be purged, I think that if Stalin had not had that stroke, that his own government, the people surrounding him would have taken him out, which in an odd way confirms his paranoia But he did bring that on himself. It wouldn't have been that way if he had not committed the purges before that. So that's an interesting thought experiment to travel down. What might have happened if Stalin had not had.
There are so many good what might have happened. Like if a time traveler went back and killed baby Woodrow Wilson, would we have had World War II?
Yeah, there's always that thought experiment of let's go back and kill some baby, and I'm like, it'd be a baby. It's terrible.
It's always why is it a baby? It's always a baby. It's never a teenager.
You're not like killing 15-year-old Hitler. You're killing baby Hitler when he hasn't done anything. Just terrible. But yeah, unfortunately, those thought exercises are never very useful because it's not like we have that ability anyway. But I think
those are just for fun.
Yeah, I think it does point out like that the path of history is so. How do I want to say this? It seems like everything is going on this straight line and all these things just fall into place. But so often in history, it could have gone the other way. That if a person had had eggs for breakfast instead of a muffin, it could have gone a completely different way for all of history.
If the bomb had gone off in that suitcase.
You're talking about the Valkyrie thing, right? That's exactly what I was thinking of. Like how this might have been avoided otherwise. Or if the Allies had never cracked Enigma, or not to frame everything in World War II, but basically World War II informed our modern world. So.
Oh, and I think what's another good thing to realize is this thread that we've been pulling on, which is, Hitler didn't. We think in retroactive 2020.
Yes.
We see all of the dead Jews. We see the gays that were put onto train cars. We see all of this, and we go, oh, well, they have to have known. We see how many million, 20 million? How many million deaths in the Soviet Union that we see?
Right.
But instead of seeing that when it started with Lenin, with the Treaty of Versailles and the people coming in and getting Hitler where he was and talking people into horrors and not telling most of them that horrors were happening, we can't forget that if you look at the state over history, it's almost always a conspiracy theory. And we just know it now because we've seen the outcome.
Yeah, that's why I always trip when people bag on conspiracy theorists. Because I think, do you not theorize that people conspire behind closed doors?
Yeah.
Because that's how most shit goes down.
I mean, the Constitution was a conspiracy.
Absolutely.
It was a coup, but no one talks about it like that.
There's a great, I don't know what to call it because it's not exactly a podcast, but it's like a mini-series by Dan Carlin called Blueprint for Armageddon, where he goes blow by blow.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen that? It's amazing. And he was talking about...
Yeah, I did listen to it.
In the beginning of the events that transpired before the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, you just have a bunch of like dirty, scrappy 20-year-old political guys planning this in a smoky cafe somewhere. This event that would trigger basically all of the modern world to unravel happened because of a conspiracy. A secret conspiracy in a closed door setting, and like that's how all of this goes down. There's not some order to it. It's almost sort of just this like random set of events that happens, and it really could have easily gone the other way. A period of it's way off the beaten track here, but a period of history I'm really interested in is Caesar's commentaries, because the Gauls almost won. They got very, very close to winning, and how different might our entire world be if Caesar had been defeated? If he had never gone back to Rome, if he had never been assassinated, if Augustus had never risen after him. Like, everything would be different now in a way that we can't possibly imagine. And that is interesting to speculate on, because it means the moment that we're alive in now, everything is possible, and it could go any way. And we look at the structures and the power structures around us, and we think, there's no way any of this could be toppled. It's so powerful, it's so corrupt, there's no way any of this could be toppled. But every time a power structure has been toppled, right up until the moment that it happened, everyone believed it to be impossible. And I think now is a unique moment in history that everyone feels a sort of electricity in the air, a rumbling in the ground. We all kind of have the inkling that something's coming. And anyone who's a student of history is like, yeah, this is the precursor. Something's about to fall down, so I'm ready for it.
This is the before time.
Yeah, it is the before time. That's exactly right. We're just waiting to see what comes. And I kind of think that it's going to be revealed that massive amounts of our politicians, celebrities, and news media are actually complicit with this Epstein stuff.
Are you reading my notes?
Am I reading your notes?
Know.
No.
because my notes right here of things that I want to talk about. You've hit every one of them.
I'm just good.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes.
Let's talk about the fact that she was living and staying in the same part of France that Roman Polanski has stayed in for decades to not be extradited to the United States and to be picked up.
I'm sure that's an accident. I'm sure it's a complete accident. There's no way that's related.
Why, unless she had a deal and a plan in place and knew she was going to get arrested, why the hell was she in Rhode Island?
Yeah, so there are bizarre threads to this that no one who's not inside of it are going to be able to parse out just yet. Because this goes far wider, in my belief, that this goes far wider and deeper than any of us are even prepared for. Like, get ready for people that you know and love and have admired.
I am at the place where I will believe it.
Yeah.
Because I believe that something happened in Franklin. You know the Franklin cover-up?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Fill me in here. Maybe I do.
So
that was awful.
Do you know who Johnny Gosch is?
No.
Johnny Gosch was the first kid to ever be put on the back of a milk carton because his mother is convinced that he was taken and sold into sex slavery.
Oh my God!
It was Franklin. What state was it, Kim?
I'm trying to remember. It's been a couple of years since I saw the documentary.
So it doesn't matter. But there was a guy at the Franklin Credit Union named Larry King. Not the Larry King that you think of, the goblin that talks to celebrities. He was a rising black Republican star that ran this credit union. And there were several... I can't get into it too deeply because it's been a long time since I've looked into it.
Sure.
But there were several people who came forward and said, hey, he is using this as a front for child trafficking. And then people started coming forward and saying, yes, this is true. He's a part of this. We were taken to the White House. We saw George H.W. Bush at the parties, etc. And so people started looking into it. And just as with everything else, people started dying. The people who came forward to tell that something happened were charged with perjury and put into prison. And one guy, I can't remember his name, but he had gone with his son to pick up some documents and some photos that would prove that something was going on. And on his way back, flying his own plane, he and his son had an airplane accident, and everything was destroyed.
Wow.
It was frightening. I mean, they had like boys recruiting boys for them, and it was quite disturbing.
So I believe it, because I think that even though all of what was said may or may not have been true, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's a lot of fire underground, and we're starting to see the smoke. And I think Tom Hanks is a part of it.
Oh my God. I had the biggest fight with a friend of mine about this because he loves Tom Hanks. And I was like, he is just too freaking clean. And then when Ricky Gervais was making that speech,
the face
that he made is the same face that every politician who gets caught screwing his secretary and has to apologize and he's caught makes that face. And he made that face more than anyone has ever made that face before. And I was like, wow, that dude fucks kids. It's just what it is. I mean, and so I was talking with somebody about this who was saying something I found compelling, which is that when you have all the money in the world and everything you ever want is handed to you all the time, it has a ratcheting effect. Like, what else can I do? This, basic things.
The law of diminishing returns.
Right. The things aren't going to entertain you as much anymore. They're not going to please you as much anymore. What else can I do to ratchet this up? You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, especially when you're dealing with like politicians, celebrities, people who never get told no, they have the world and all of their dark predilections to satisfy it with. And it wouldn't surprise me if all of these people, all of them are involved in it. And it's not themselves physically doing things to children. They know about it and they're looking the other way and are thus guilty.
Have you looked into Isaac Cappy?
I'm sorry, who?
Isaac Cappy.
I don't know the name, no.
He was an actor. He did a couple small parts, but he knew Seth Green.
Okay.
And he started talking about child sex trafficking and Hollywood stars and mentioned Seth Green by name. If you want an interesting dive, look into Isaac Cappy and his videos.
That's heartbreaking because I do like Seth Green, but like I said, I am prepared for it to be everybody and anybody, even the people that I like.
Yep.
What wouldn't you do if you had access to everything and it was accepted and it was part of the culture and they had whole islands where you could go and participate in this? It would be normalized. You wouldn't think anything of it.
I would actually speculate that it's not even just that aspect, but the fact of, people who have probably been working for these careers, you always get those stories of, being a waitress until they make it, all that kind of stuff. And so they finally make it and they find out that most of the people that they're going to be working with, that is pretty much the future of their career, decide they want to screw some kids. And you might have some moral reservations, but nope, your passion for being a big millionaire actor is just much more important. And also the fact, when you look into the story of Jeffrey Epstein, it was not even just he would have celebrities there. He would make sure he took pictures with all of them so that he would have the blackmail material. So it's a mixture of depraved people and people who have decided that certain things are a heck of a lot more important than morals and children.
There's so much money.
Not to mention the fact that, I don't know about you, but that it's not easy to tell a 15 or 16-year-old girl apart from an 18 or 19-year-old girl.
Right.
And so it's very easy for these people who want you under their thumb and want you to not be able to tell on them for things they're doing to hook you on someone you think is legal, take video or photo of it, and then go, oh, no, she was 15.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are having to come to terms with that, even just in the regular person community, because we're finding out that Pornhub is maybe involved in some of this sex trafficking, and that possibly some of the videos that they have up on their website are videos of sex slaves. And like you said, how can you tell by looking? I mean, is she pantomiming that, or is she in fact being raped? How do you know?
Yeah.
And so there's a reckoning as far as that goes with, a lot of people in just the regular person community. So imagine you living in a world where you have all the money in the world and you never get told no. What wouldn't you have access to?
I think that Michael Malice had the best idea, because he said it about Epstein, but I think we should do it with Ghislaine Maxwell. Mm-hmm. What we need is to have her in a cell, set up a webcam in that cell that broadcasts all the time, make money off of it, make people pay $5 to watch. You will never have less than 1 million people watching to make sure that woman isn't killing herself or getting assassinated 24 hours a day.
It was so cartoonish, the way that Epstein was taken out, too. It was like, oh, the guard was asleep and the camera was off. And I was like, you just don't even respect us. You're just going to give us not even a good lie. You're going to just bullshit. The guard was asleep. He also has $100,000 in his bank account now. I don't know that that's true, but I assume something like that is true.
Yeah.
And, okay, so I don't know if you guys saw the Chrissy Teigen stuff that was going on.
Oh, it was frightening.
Yeah. So she had a bunch of tweets that are deleted now, but the internet is in ink, so they've been screenshotted. And it's her talking about how the show Toddlers and Tiaras was giving her bad feelings. And so basically the entire internet is calling Chrissy Teigen a pedophile. And she's locked down her account and blocked she said she blocked 1 million people. Yeah. I'd like to know how she did that. But she blocked 1 million people.
That's amazing. Like a fast draw.
Yeah. So, and I mean, so she's married to John Legend. It's all of them. All of them. And I'm sorry, I know this is all of our entertainment and our art for the last 40 or 50 years, but it's all of them. And we're going to have to just swallow some pills here that some of our beloveds, some of the people that we've grown up with and some of the people that we respect are actually kiddie-diddlers. And it's time to go through with a wood chipper.
Yeah, they're actually the monsters from horror movies.
Yes.
Speaking of.
Oh.
Nice segue.
Yeah, that's a great segue to my project. Let's tie it in.
I love it when I hit a good one. Oh, it's like crack.
No, but it's a great point because, like, people consider me kind of a freak because I like to watch horror movies, and a lot of these movies have terrible content. It's ghosts, people getting killed, and horrifying things, but that is nothing compared to if you just peel back the veneer of our actual society, just the corner of it. You guys seen Event Horizon? Or else, like,
Not
the
yet.
screaming hellscape? That's the sound it makes when you peel the veneer back. And that's our real society. So there is no horror movie on earth that I think could compare to what we're about to find out about our politicians, our movie stars, and our press.
I'm just hoping it actually gets a chance to get out.
Yeah.
And I don't think Q has anything to do with it.
No.
Oh, no.
As much as they would like to. God bless them.
Yeah.
He was irrelevant to me.
Let's talk about your 100 Nights of Horror.
Yeah, it's 100 Nights O Horror. It's a little Irish.
Oh.
I'm a little Irish, so I threw a little Irish on it. And it is, as far as I know, the biggest horror movie challenge on the internet. There are some other ones that I think are like 30 days. But what our challenge attempts to do is watch 100 horror movies before Halloween night. So we start on July 23rd. That's the 100th day before Halloween night. And our group, I create a list and I create a calendar, but you don't have to follow my calendar. And we go through and we watch one movie per night. And we have a really fun group. We discuss the movies and we do live chats and, trivia. And sometimes there's contests and things like that. So we do have fan art, just lots of fun stuff that goes on. But it's a very loosely structured challenge. So you don't have to watch one movie per night. You can save them all up for the weekend and binge, or you can do double headers, however you want to do it. But the object is between July 23rd and October 31st, you watch 100 horror movies. And if your mind is not completely bent by the end of that, well, then I applaud you. I actually have never completed the challenge myself, and I don't know of anyone who has. I've gotten to 57 is my high number. So
I just need to know.
Yes.
Is Ernest Scared Stupid on the list? And if not, can I talk you into it?
So the list is finalized, but I haven't put it out yet because I don't release it until July 23rd. So if there's a movie on, I think I sent you the list early, even though I wasn't supposed to tell anyone about that. I did send you the list early. If you find a candidate on that list that you think should be bumped for Ernest Scared Stupid, then I will consider it. But you have to pick the title and tell me why Ernest Scared Stupid should replace that.
I take that as a challenge, and I will do it. And let me ask you.
Yes.
For you, what are the most terrifying horror movies?
Okay, so we were discussing before the recording started, Lars von Trier's Antichrist is probably single-handedly the most disturbing horror movie that I've seen. Like, it caused my husband to have such a visceral reaction that he had to actually leave the room. I don't want to specifically tell you what scene that was because I don't want to ruin the surprise. But if you think you've got the stomach for it, Lars von Trier's Antichrist will definitely put you to the task on that one. And then also just kind of for fun, I was also mentioning that when I was around 4 years old, I saw the movie Critters, which is sort of a ridiculous horror movie, but it haunts me to this day. I'm old. I'm almost 40 years old, and that movie still haunts me to this day. So, yeah, kind of a wide variety there. But, yeah.
Well, I love horror movies. I love different types. I especially like ones that make me feel uneasy. Mm-hmm. Like, uneasiness is such an interesting thing to happen when you're watching a movie, and it's not typical. And so I like when that can happen.
Right.
But I would say if it comes to actual, like, feeling scared, for years, and I think for good reason, for me, it's been not movies about ghosts, because screw ghosts, movies about demons.
Ooh.
Because
that
let me
tinges
tell
on
you,
a might be real kind of thing.
Yeah. For me, it goes full on into is real. Not the state.
Okay.
I believe they're real.
Right, okay. I was like, uh-oh, we're about to go down a path, aren't we?
No. I'm not Nick Cannon. I'm not going to go anti-Semitic.
Right.
But no, yeah, like my biggest frustration with the movie Paranormal Activity was when they decided they wanted to catch the footprints of the demon. And when they got the footprints, it was like dragon paw prints.
Right.
And I was like, come on, give me, like, is that really what you think of when you hear demons?
Right,
like,
right.
What's more terrifying than just like big ass human feet?
Little human feet.
Yeah,
Little
either way, go in either
human
direction.
Feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing scarier than kids. Like creepy kids or demon kids. Oh my God.
Thank you. Goodness.
Let me tell
Always
you.
the scariest thing in scary movies to me.
When I walk through this house to get a glass of water at 3 a.m, and one of my beautiful, angelic children walks up to me, there is no difference between them and a demon at that moment.
So my husband...
But yeah, so...
Go
ahead.
Just real quick, my husband last night, he woke up from a nightmare. And as he was waking up from the nightmare, our cat was coming in through the door meowing. She probably wanted food. It's a completely normal thing. But it scared the shit out of him, and he jumped 10 feet high out of bed so much that it woke me up. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he's like, I don't know what to tell you right now. But yeah, it was just the combination of the nightmare with the wow sound scared the life out of him, this poor man. And he's very scientific. He doesn't buy into any kind of like supernatural anything. And so to see him in that state was like, wow, this is interesting. Like,
yeah.
I don't actually blame him because I have a Siamese, and Siamese cats are very talkative,
vocal.
And she'll hit the she'll go into heat, and I'll be sleeping and have some sort of freaky thing happen, or I'll jolt awake and I can just hear it sounds like a baby crying. It can be really frightening.
It took him a minute to get his wits about him, and he didn't know how to process that sound in combination with the nightmare. And God, I felt terrible for him, but at the same time, I was like, I've never seen you have this reaction before. Like, because me, I'm a big fan of horror movies, and I sort of ironically believe in ghosts and UFOs and things like that. So I like a universe with a little bit of mystery in it.
Yeah.
And I can freak myself out really easy, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning, walking through the house to get some water. You just know that there's a cold hand sort of waiting behind the corner to grab you or something. And like, that makes things more fun for me. But I can understand if that's not your bag, how deeply disturbing that kind of thing would be. Honestly, if I saw a ghost, I would chase it around the house. I would be like,
dude,
let me talk.
If I saw a ghost, I can't tell you how many times the name Jesus would pop out of my mouth.
Oh yeah.
And I rebuke you, all that.
Right.
Go back to my Pentecostal days. So
yeah, I've heard a lot of that kind of theory about ghosts. I read a lot about that kind of stuff, not necessarily because I believe in it, but it's that lore is such a part of our culture and such a part of our history that especially in Georgia, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a haunted house around here. I mean, it's just, But how come you never see a ghost from the 80s? How come you never see a ghost smoking a cigarette in like a crop top?
Yeah, how come you never hear a ghost singing I'm Feeling 22 in the other room?
It's always like a guy from the Civil War or something, and you're like, okay. I mean, like, other people died since then, so. But yeah, Georgia, we love our ghost stories here, so.
We need new ghosts.
Yes,
thank
you.
Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm going to extend to you an offer that I haven't offered anyone else, okay? Anytime you want to come on, just tell me.
Wow, that's the Larry David treatment.
I enjoy this, and also, if you want to talk about my theory when it comes to ghosts,
I would love to do that. Oh my gosh, let's do a whole ghost episode.
So that is my offer to you. Before we go, please tell everyone your Twitter handle, Instagram, if you do that, where to find your horror challenge, and also please send it to me so I can put it all in my notes.
I'll send the links to you for that. The horror movie challenge is 100 Nights Oh Horror. And if you basically like type into Facebook, 100 Nights O Horror Challenge. It should come up there. Also, it's like the URL. The last part of it is just 100 Nights, Facebook/groups/100 Nights O Horror with just the lettering, all one word. My Twitter handle is LIBTKIT Witch, Libet Kit Witch, which is supposed to be Libertarian Kitchen Witch, but they don't give you a lot of space. I'm on YouTube, The Jessica Green Show. I put an episode up about once a month. And then I also have a blog, The Libertarian Kitchen Witch, on WordPress. But mostly if you want to find me, look for me on Twitter. I like to chop it up on there. So yeah, come find me.
Awesome. And if you want to find Kim, type Lesbertarian anywhere and you'll find her. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you want to email her specifically and not me, lesbertarian@gmail.com. If you want to hit me, cam@mlganetwork.com. And then just type in "This is MLGA" anywhere. thisismlga.com, etc. I do have a Patreon, so find that and give me money, please, because I edit so much for you guys, and I just feel like maybe Daddy needs a coffee. I don't know. All right. Thank you so much again, Jessica. You've been a joy. I love talking to you. I love our social media interaction.
This is fun, you guys. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And as always, dear listeners, stay sane.